I'm telling you, folks, this has got to be the single greatest resource in mixed martial arts. Kenny Florian also top three. But Big John McCarthy is with us. What's going on, man?
How you doing?
We're doing well, man, and thank you for your time today. I know you're not all over the place these days, and people are grabbing your quotes and pasting them all over. So we thank you for doing this. I feel like you're such a resource that I'm going to keep trying, and you said yes this time, so thank you for that. Now, I know you've put in a lot of hours in your lifetime sort of trying to improve MMA and affect positive change in the sport. So it seems like some rule changes are coming in 2017, and seems like, I guess, your thesis statement on this for a while has been it's about time.
Well, look at. I always look at it. Our sport is evolving, and it's evolving so fast. You look at what we had in the past, and you look at what is occurring today. It's a different sport. It's still fighting, and it's still it's got the grappling and it's got the submissions but the things that guys are doing, you can talk to Kenny. What they're doing today is way different than what they were doing 10 years ago. And if we are not doing things to evolve the rules and what we're judging the fights by and how we're going about looking at the fights, if we're not trying to evolve along with the sport, then we're not doing justice to the fighters. So just like the NFL every year has a rules committee that goes and looks at what can we do to help the sport, make it better for the fans, better for the players, better for the officials, all of that. If we're not doing that, then we're missing a big part of what is our responsibility.
John, talk about some of the changes that you've seen now for the new rules, I guess, that may be changed now in the UFC. What's the deal with this?
Well, when you talk about the UFC, as you know it, it's a promotion.
Right.
Bellator, a promotion. RFA, all these different ones, they're promotions. The UFC has been the industry leader in when back in 2001, when they had actually done a show before that in November, and then they came back in 2001 at the beginning and did a show, and Larry Hazard had done several MMA shows in the state of New Jersey, and with those individual shows, each promotion was coming in with their own rule set. And Larry Hazard at the time looked and said, look, I can't have different promotions coming in and we're going to do different rule sets. I want one set of rules. So he brought together all the different promoters, and the unified rules came out of that. And those have been what the UFC has said, look, this is what we're going to go by. We're going to go by what the unified rules are. And every other promotion has kind of gone along right with that, and that's the way it should be. The problem is you have each individual state. When we talk about the unified rules, that's the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. And each individual state unto itself has the ability to follow those unified rules or to add things or to take things away from it if they so desire. Because unlike the NFL or Major League Baseball, this is not the same when it comes to fighting, as we don't have that one institution, that association over the top that is governing everything. We have individual state athletic commissions that, they can do what they want within their state. So the UFC has always gone and said, look, we want to do the unified rules. We want to go to places that follow the unified rules, and I think that's what they're going to continue with. And when we talk about the changes that we've made, what was proposed, all of these changes, and you're going to hear all kinds of stuff, they're not major changes in some things, and in some things there are. We've added a couple of rules. We added, the whole thing with, sticking your hand out with your fingers pointed towards your opponent's face.
Right.
In the past, the referees couldn't do anything about that other than we would warn them and say, hey, close your hand, put your fingers up. But there was nothing that we could do to stop the fighter from doing it until if there was an eye poke, you could take points away or take them out of the fight completely. But now there's actually a rule against putting your hand out in that fashion with your fingers extended out towards your opponent's face. Now it becomes something that the referee can say, hey, don't do that. I'm telling you, don't do it. I'm going to start to take a point away from you, or I'll take you completely out of the fight just for continually doing something that can be a problem towards the sport, a problem towards fighter safety.
Now,
so that's one
John, I'm half serious and half joking, but what does that do to the Stockton slap?
That does nothing to the
Okay,
stock.
so you can hit with an open palm. You just can't go forward with your hands out, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can, Nick and Nate, they're absolutely safe with actually. Look, a lot of people ask me all the time, can you slap someone? Yes, you can slap someone in MMA. It's not against the rules,
Right.
but that would not constitute a foul by doing that with this rule.
Sean McCarthy with us here on the Anakin Florian podcast. So New Jersey was the lone dissenter when this vote went down. You had a couple states abstain, I believe. But how would the UFC handle staging a show in New Jersey if these rule changes aren't adopted universally?
I can't tell you that, John, that would be the UFC as a promotion deciding what they're going to do. But
Yeah.
I can tell you when a state decides to separate themselves, they're causing themselves a problem. New Jersey's got a problem anyways because New York is now there. And so,
Right.
Hey, they can sit there, and New Jersey tries to bring themselves up as this big player within, the sport, and that's all fine. But when you look at the state athletic commissions that really do a lot of fights, New Jersey's not one of them.
Yeah.
California does a ton of fights. Nevada does a lot of fights. Utah does a lot of fights. Texas does a lot of fights. And they do the bigger shows also. And so usually with, Nevada doing most of the biggest shows, California doing it, when it comes to how many shows are done, California is doing, between boxing and MMA, there are over 200 shows professional-wise a year. That's people that do a lot of fights.
So what do you think is the most significant rule change or thing to come out of what is going to happen in 2017? Is it the downed opponent, the open hand? What do you think is the biggest impact change?
I think the two that are going to be the biggest impact change are the downed opponent and the extended fingers towards the fighter's face. The downed opponent, you're going to hear, New Jersey's come out saying, that, we're subjecting fighters to more head trauma. That's just not true. The reason the rule is changed is to make it twofold. First off, if, Kenny and I are fighting and I end up putting my hand down and Kenny's in a position, right over the top of me, usually we'll say, he's trying for either a front headlock or, guillotine and he's got my arms through. He has a hard time seeing if one of my hands goes down. And he has a hard time feeling it because that position is I can do it without actually changing levels. And what we're trying to do is make it to where the fighter who is in control of that position actually can now tell if his opponent actually is going down, because it's this whole thing about putting the extra hand down. That's what you have to do if you're going to try to stay on your feet. But a downed opponent is the same now as it was in the past. If I put any other part of my body down, I put one knee down, I'm a downed opponent. Doesn't matter how many hands I have down. Doesn't matter how, where my feet are. If I have one knee down, I am down. I have any other part of my body, my back, my butt, an arm, forearm, any of that makes me a down fighter, and I cannot be kneed or kicked to the face. But what fighters did is they looked and they were smart, and they said, look, I can take this rule and make this rule work to where when I'm in a bad position, it actually is beneficial to me and makes it hard on my opponent. And that's not what rules should be doing. Rules are there to protect people or to make the play fair. And what we're trying to do with this rule change, and trust me, we tried it. We went in the gym. We went and did everything, and we were getting hit and stuff to see, am I going to do the same thing? And really what it's going to do, fighters are going to change what they're doing inside the cage because it doesn't work for them in the same fashion that it did in the past.
So is the reason why these rules aren't going to be implemented until 2017 so the fighters can make adjustments? Is that okay. So, all right. So
that's the big part. The big part was if we sprung it on everyone right away and we didn't give them a chance to sit there and go back to the gym and say, okay, this is a change. What am I going to do? Then we looked at it and said, we're not being fair to the fighters. So if we give them until, the beginning of the year, then they're going to have time to go back in the gym. They can work on all these things. They can feel comfortable with it. When it comes out at the beginning of the year, they know what they can do. They know where they're at. They know what they're in positions, what they personally are decided they're going to do in that.
So I know in talking to you that the process of making rule changes in mixed martial arts is cumbersome. Are you satisfied with what has been done and what will be done?
You know what? It's everything is a give and take, and that's what's so funny is, look at the Rules Committee came out with this very long list of things that they wanted to look at, and individually looked at all of them, and some of them voted for change, and then went to, another committee within the ABC. We'll say the ringside physicians, and they're a very powerful part of that decision making because when the ringside physicians say, "I have a problem with this," then it took away some of the things that we looked at and said, okay, we would like to look at making a change here. And then the ringside physicians would say, we really don't want to, we don't want to say that we like that. And so that long list becomes a much shorter list. And when it gets down to the point of presenting it to the ABC, that list gets even shorter. So there's obviously other changes that the Rules Committee, being, people that are fighters and officials inside of the sport, think, would make the sport better. But again, we're one entity, and we can have our ideas, and other people can have theirs, and it's all got to gel together. It is not we get to do whatever we want. We have to make sure that we go through the right channels, and everyone is comfortable with what we're doing. The big thing is, when you look at the complaints that came out from New Jersey about, what we did, the Rules Committee came out with it. The ringside physicians and the ARP, the Association of Ringside Physicians, looked at every change that we were going to make. And they agreed with everyone saying this will not, because they actually talked with us and we showed them, they came out saying this is not going to make the sport any less safe. In fact, we believe it will make it more safe.
Just another reason for me to not go to the armpit of America. No, I'm just kidding. We have a lot of good New Jersey people coming on here. Hey, John, very quickly before we let you go, I mean, when we have you on, it's like, I'm like, man, I come up with like 15 questions and then I don't get to any of them. But you will be the third man in the octagon for Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor this weekend. Now, the advance notice you have for an assignment, I believe can range from like months to finding out on fight night, no notice at all. Is that right?
That's true.
So do you do anything to prepare when you happen to know well in advance that you'll be working a particular fight?
Well, yeah. The one thing as a referee, it's always good if you have advance notice of who you're working with, that you can actually go back and watch, the fighters, and you watch some of the things that they've done in the past. You watch some of the setups that they have, what they rely on, how they start to, if they get hurt, what they do. All of that is good information for me as an official, because then when the fight is going on, if those things are occurring again, I've got advanced knowledge in, all right, this is where he's at in the fight. This is what he's doing. This is how hurt he is. All of that is good for me. But you still got to go off of exactly what you see that night and, go with the information that they're presenting to you.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this. If you could have any other job in mixed martial arts, or other than what you do for referees and then what you actually do as a referee, would it be to get into broadcasting, or not necessarily?
You know what? Yeah, I would look at I look at guys like you and Kenny, and the one thing that people don't realize, they don't realize how good you guys are. And when I say that, they don't realize the work and effort and all of the preparation that goes into doing the things that makes, when you're putting out that show and you're talking, makes it seem so effortlessly, and you guys just glide through it and all the stuff. But I would look at, if I could ever do something like, talk about when there's fouls or things like that, or, if there's something that goes wrong in the fight, be that guy, or even scoring the fight. Be that guy that, could give information to the fans so they knew more about what the referee should be doing, how they should be doing it, all that stuff. Yeah, that would probably be where, if I was going to go into broadcasting, that would be the direction I'd want to go.
Yeah, I see what Mike Pereira and what an asset he's been to Fox. I mean, hey, if I was in charge, first thing I would do would be to make you a staple of UFC broadcast.
Oh,
but
yeah.
maybe in another lifetime. Big John McCarthy, man, insight. Invaluable as usual. Thank you for the time, and we're not going to be in Vegas, at least I'm not going to be, but we'll be watching your work on Saturday night, man. Thank you as always.
Hey, thank you for having me on. You guys take care.